We're in Malta looking at a lovely old picture. I'm going to try and explain what it is, and hopefully I'll get across the feeling for it and what it is. It is a Victorian copy of an older painting. So in Malta you have this situation where you have a succession of Grandmasters, and there have been many different people who've painted and engraved representations of the Grandmasters. The more recent ones have more source material, so the representations are more accurate. The older ones and the ancient ones and the knights before Malta from Rhodes, there's less information, and later in history when people decided they wanted a list of paintings, they had to make up the pictures, the faces. They would be able to use the right armour, they would be able to use the right insignia, but they would make up the faces. So this one here is Grandmaster L'Isle Adam. L'Isle Adam is a place and a chateau in France. I don't know whether he came from there or not. I suspect he did. And in the Grandmaster's Palace in Malta, there is a stone escutcheon, meaning trophy, meaning heraldic device showing his arms. There is a coronet with jewels. There are two knight's crosses, and there are two pictures of, I think they're praying hands with a holy cloth over the top. So it's the right knight, it's Grandmaster L'Isle Adam. And the picture we have here is a Victorian copy of earlier paintings and earlier etchings and engravings of the same character. So it's a regurgitated second, third or fourth or fifth edition of this knight, this Grandmaster. So this is painted in blue, and the shine is painted in a bluey grey. It's not painted in a silvery white reflection. So it's a quick sort of painted armour. It's not a very difficult armour like you find on other armour paintings, but it is armour. It's not cloth. It is meant to be armour. It's got the escutcheon, the coat of arms. It's got a crested helmet, which may or may not be the right armour. It might look more like ceremonial armour than fighting armour, or dress armour you could call it. But it is armour with the Knight's Cross, and there is gold trim on the armour. So these paintings were popular in Malta, and they're called Auberge paintings, and they usually were in the Auberges in Malta, but they were also in houses of noble people in Malta of varying persuasions, and there would often be large sets of them. In England recently there was a set of these paintings which were not related to Malta, because in England we have them as well, but they're not called Auberge pictures in England. And they had, I think there were 60 from one house. There were 17th century pictures. There were a dozen Turks, there were a dozen Italian, but there were also other characters, including the landowners in England. So it's a similar thing. It's not the same, but in England we have these sort of pictures which show characters, and often in England there will be a sign saying who it is. Not always. Sometimes there is. Sometimes it will be on the actual canvas. Sometimes there will be a painted oval, but usually they're this size and this shape, and they would go in these large rooms in England, and they would go up high on the walls, usually, not always, in a set. And in England, they are, as I say, they are still selling and dividing these sets. That set of 60 was divided. So in Malta they have Auberge paintings, and the earliest Auberge paintings would be usually 16th, 17th, 18th century, where there was a demand to make them, there was the money to pay for them, and there were the places to hang them. Later on, ordinary people wanted them as well. So people who were not top-notch nobles, people who were medium quality nobles, and some of the merchants wanted them as well. And they would not want the set of 50 or 60 or 30 because they didn't have enough money, they didn't have enough space, but they would want 5. They might want de la Valette, they might want the known ones, Homspech, Velhena, the recent ones, and they would buy some, and they would get them copied from the earlier ones. So this one is a Victorian one, but it's not a late Victorian one. The late Victorian ones and the Edwardian ones, because they were copying these right into the 20th century, up to 1920, 1930, the late Victorian ones and Edwardian ones have a very cheesy tawdriness, not very well done. This one is beautifully done, and it's, though they're not using the whites for the silvering on the armour, though it's done in the blues and greys, it's a fantastic portrait of decent size, and it's in good condition. There are old repairs which have been done over the years, which are adequate, and the condition is just how you want it. It doesn't need to go into a workshop for repair, and it doesn't look like it's just come out of a workshop. It's not too shiny. The frame is a standard Victorian Maltese frame. It's not a Maltese pedigree, but it's what they were using in Malta. And this frame is not the original frame. This frame will be from around 1910, 1920, looking at the colour and the moulding. This painting has been relined to stiffen it and support it and to cover the repairs. You can see them through the back, the shape of the repairs. But this structure is going to be 1880-ish. It could be 1860 at the earliest. It could at a push be 1900, 1910. But I think it's going to be 1880-ish because it's such a nice one. So you've got this Auberge portrait. It's not first run, obviously, as I've described. It is a relatively recent version. And in Malta, if you wanted to buy an 18th century one, you'd struggle to buy it because the museums in Malta would want it first, and the big international collectors would want it second, and the big Maltese institutions would want it third, and after that the big collectors in Malta would want it and the dealers would want it. So if you want a real old one, you'll struggle to get one. This is the next best thing. It is a good early Victorian copy, and because it's in good condition relatively, it's usable. You can go on the wall. There's not many around. Even in the last 5 years, there's less and less of these being painted. You will find 20th century ones, because if you send this picture, a photograph of this picture, to China, they will paint it for you as an original oil painting, and you will see in Malta for sale right now, and in England for sale right now. You will see all of the main Grandmaster pictures for sale again, but they're new, and they look fantastic. But they're too good to be true, and they are new oil paintings. And the Chinese have factories making copies of oil paintings. I have had paintings painted in China from photographs. They paint it, and they send it to you rolled up. So this is for Malta. It's a Maltese subject. It's Victorian. Unfortunately, expensive. This one is not first tier, as I described, second tier, but it is relatively inexpensive, but it's decoratively superb, and in a nice Maltese house, that's going to look absolutely fantastic. If I don't sell it, I don't care. I mean that, I'm not just saying it. If I don't sell it, I don't care. I think it's a lovely thing. Okay, thank you.